past few weeks have been pretty busy, and between the scorching heat and many days spent on the road or in meetings and nights spent in hotels, as well as spending whatever time remained with my family whenever I was not away for work, I have barely had enough time to catch a breath, relax and just sit with my own thoughts for a while. Usually though, it's those downtime moments, preferably after a good night of sleep and with a coffee, that give me that creative energy and make me want to pick up my camera to go out and shoot. As a result, my photography and indeed this channel had to take a bit of a back seat to everything else that was going on over the past few weeks and perhaps even months. But if I'm being completely honest with you, there is a little bit more to it as well. Because I also feel like I've kind of grown out of whatever this channel has become. And this is where it gets difficult for me, especially when it comes to the question of how I want to move forward. You see, this channel actually started out as a channel about my everyday carry stuff. An incredibly dorky subject that I like to obsess about way more than I would admit to anyone who knows me in real life. And so YouTube seemed to be a good place to share this passion of mine while simultaneously having a creative outlet and making some money off of my passion. And I guess it sort of worked out. I gained a few subscribers, and even though this channel certainly isn't big by any standard, at some point brand deals started coming in too, which led to me being able to try out even more gear. You could say that everything went as I wanted. But here's the deal. At the end of the day, I always wanted to keep my content authentic. I didn't want to buy something just to review it, and I didn't want to show or test something just because it was part of a brand deal. But after trying out a bunch of gear for a while, I eventually settled for a few items that just worked for me, and I no longer had any desire to switch things up or make content about the same stuff on a regular basis. And so I stopped and decided to pivot this channel towards a different passion of mine, which is camera gear and photography. It wasn't a hard stop, but more so a gradual but very conscious decision, and I've been making videos about different types of camera gear as well as photography and some photography related travel videos ever since, with the occasional EDC pocket loadout or back video in the mix whenever I actually felt like it. And this worked out for a while, but somewhere along the way I think the same thing that happened with EDC stuff before has now also happened with regards to camera gear. This channel has grown a bit, albeit slowly. I started buying new gear, eventually I got access to gear via some cool brand deals, and now it feels like I have kind of reached the end. When I started making those videos, I was shooting on an entry-level Fujifilm APS-C camera, and even an entry-level full-frame camera was just a very distant dream for me at the time. Fast forward to now, and I have 2 medium-format Hasselblads, 2 full-frame Leicas, 2 full-frame Sonys, and a mountain of point-and-shoot and action cams. I'm not saying this to brag though. I'm saying this to point out that, at least gear-wise, I have everything I could ever need and then some. I had the opportunity to try out many different things, and by now I know what I like. And so, in a way, much to my own surprise, camera gear is just not as exciting to me anymore. It's not a limiting factor, and in that sense it feels like I have very little room for progress. Weirdly enough, and perhaps somewhat contradictory, at the same time, I think there are more great cameras out on the market than ever before, and it feels like every other week a new and interesting camera is released, which sounds like something a gearhead like myself should be excited about. But, truth be told, with how much headspace the thought of maybe or maybe not buying something new or upgrading this or switching to a different system has taken up for me, knowing full well in the back of my head that probably none of it would make a difference in the real world, I just feel a bit exhausted by it. And that is not a feeling I want from what used to give me joy and made me daydream. Worst of all though, I think that all this has, to some degree, brought me further away from what I think really matters here, which is the creative part. And so I think it might be time for me to move on. Luckily, this is not my job, so even though this is a business, I am not dependent on this income. And I think I need a change of pace, and I feel like my camera gear hunt is, for the most part, over. At least for now. Photography itself, though, is still very much a big passion of mine, maybe more than ever before. The only issue is that I have no clear idea where to go from here. I will still post camera gear related videos too, but probably fewer than before, and if I do, I want to focus even more on using that gear instead of the gear itself. We'll see how that goes, I guess. As for a new direction, no idea. I think right now I want to focus more on the creative side of making videos again and about telling stories, which will probably always be linked to photography in some form or another, but with a bigger emphasis on the process and less so on gear. So if this isn't for you, if you are here for the gear stuff, I get it, thanks for sticking around so far, but for everyone else, I hope you will enjoy whatever comes next, and thanks for being here.